Greetings from Tajik State Pedagogical University named after Sadruddin AYNI. My name is Mubirkhoni Muminpur and I'm lecturer of the history. And today we will start our presentation, and the first topic of our class for today will be about the primitive community and its decline in the territory of Central Asia. Dear students, for the presentation of today we prepared several literature from which you can learn about the all information about the history of Tajik people, starting from the early age, from the Stone Age until the Middle Age and nowadays. So our literatures consist from 11 books which you can find on internet, on libraries, and these are books from all historians, all archaeologists of Tajikistan and abroad, which they provide their scientific works, their scientific results in their books. So you can use our literature from this book. And for our today's presentation, we prepared a plan, and from the plan, our first topic will be about the Paleolithic monuments of the Republic of Tajikistan, where we can learn about the history of the Paleolithic age of the Stone Age time. And it should be mentioned out that the Paleolithic age of Tajikistan also divides into another chapters which tells about the lower Paleolithic period, middle and upper. So one by one we will tell you about the discoveries, about some interesting facts about this age. And second chapter of our presentation will be about the Mesolithic and Neolithic age, and also here we will stay and we will tell you about the different regions of Tajikistan, different regions of the Central Asia, and we will start to compare them, and from our presentation you can get some useful information. And last we will stay about the section of earliest rock paintings which the historians, archaeologists discovered, and they learned about the earliest rock paintings. It's petroglyphs of the territory of Tajikistan, and again here we will stay more about all of the petroglyphs of Tajikistan. Dear students, as you know, Stone Age was one of the longest period of human existence in the earth, and divided into three main periods, which we call them Paleolithic period, Mesolithic period and Neolithic period. And it should be mentioned out that also Paleolithic period divides into three another periods, which first one we called it lower Paleolithic period, and somewhere also historian mentions as a early Paleolithic period. Second one is a middle Paleolithic period, and the third one, the last one, it's a upper Paleolithic period. And I'll tell you that we will stay about all of the chapters, all of the sections of the Paleolithic period, and we will tell you more about them. And for the slide of our presentation here, we prepared you some settlements from Tajikistan, which they discovered some interesting stone tools from, as you see in the map, most of them were discovered from south of Tajikistan and eastern part of Tajikistan. It's a Khatlon region and mountainous region of Badakhshan. And we will tell you more information about all of the settlements here in the second topic of our today's presentation. We will stay on Paleolithic period, and we will tell you about the lower Paleolithic period. It's difficult to say as when the first men appeared in the territory of Central Asia, because the oldest traces of their life might not have preserved. As we know, it's a longest period of human being, and it's not suggested by the historians that it was preserved until nowadays. Some scholars are on the view that Central Asia could have been a part of the zone of territory on which apes evolved into human beings, even though this view cannot consider as a generally accepted one. Nevertheless, the possibility of finding on this territory the oldest remains of human life cannot rule out. It means that from the territory of Central Asia they have discovered lots of artifacts, lots of proven theories by the historians, by the history books of our days, but it's not proved yet. The term of Paleolithic age is used to designate the early period of human history, approximately 2.5 million BC to 10,000 BC. It's the 10,000 beginning of the Bronze Age, in which human used simple stone tools. In the presentation, you see some presented tools which we discovered also from Tajikistan and also Central Asia. And it should be mentioned out that the Paleolithic word is a Greek word from old stone, and the Paleolithic age is sometimes called as a Old Stone Age. And it should be mentioned out that human for the first time here started to use chopper. In the theory of the history, they called it chopper. It's a pebble roughly worked on one side and used for digging and skinning. Typological analysis shows that the stone implements of Central Asia are closely analogous to the so-called Stone Paleolithic culture of India. This indicates that these countries had a common historical path in the epoch of the Lower Paleolithic. Geological data show that the carriers of the stone culture lived in the epoch of the first interglacial age, and the succeeding Rese age is a Middle Paleistone epoch more than 200,000 years ago. In that period, there existed such animals as the ancient form of elephants, fossil horse, early forms of mammoth, longhorn bison, different types of rhinoceros. It should be mentioned out that also from the territory of Tajikistan we have found such artifacts which gives the proven facts about the saying. In the next slide of our presentation here you see some discoveries from the Republic of Tajikistan. Evidences suggest that the age of the Stone Age of these settlements goes back to the more than 1 million years ago, and we had such a proven artifacts, proven data which tells us about this information. The major sites of this period such as Kullara, Keratov, Lahoti and Obi Mazor are one of the most preserved settlements from this period. Dear students, now we will start our second topic of today's presentation, which is about the monuments of the Middle Paleolithic period. The next stage in the life of primitive man, the Middle Paleolithic, more richly represented in Central Asia. It says that in the territory of Central Asia, most of the data which tells us they preserved from the Middle Paleolithic period. This is the time of the dawn of the Muster culture, the time of the existence of the Neanderthals, from who at the threshold of the Middle and Upper Paleolithic period, people of the contemporary type evolved. During the Middle Paleolithic period, the division of labor between man and woman established. From that time, women were busy with housekeeping and the basic work, and man was hunting, making tools, and so on. In the presentation we prepared here for you special designing sayings that the primitive man in the Middle Paleolithic period, they started to keep fire, to produce fire, and also they started to hunt. And for the first time also, labor was here, divided between men and women. It should be mentioned out that the main hunting object for the Tajik people was the Siberian mountain goat, available in large numbers in the mountains of Central Asia, especially in the mountainous region of Badakhshan, which we call them ibex. They also hunted deers, bears, leopards, and smaller wild animals for their hunting. In the presentation here also we prepared a hunting scene and also ibex, which represent the mountainous region of Badakhshan. Another discovery which they discovered from the period of the Middle Paleolithic period, which proved the existence of human being in the period of Middle Paleolithic period in the territory of Central Asia. It was the skeleton of a boy about 8-9 years old, and it became an event of worldwide importance. And it should be mentioned out that around the remain of the bones they discovered also horns of a mountain god and some stone tools, which indicates premeditated burial. And here in the slide you see the picture of the Neanderthal boy. Dear students, the Musterian stone tool production type is considered a technological step forward consisting of a transition from lower Paleolithic, handheld, a shoelen hand, access to hefted tools. Hefted tools are stone points or blades mounted on a wooden shaft and wielded as spears or perhaps bow and arrow. Muster caves and open settlements have been discovered at many places of Central Asia in the plains and the mountains. And from the Middle Paleolithic period, which goes back to the 200,000 years back, we discovered from the territory of Tajikistan settlements as Khonakoh, Khuji, Agzigijik, Kumtepa, Simiganj, Murimur, and Dusti, described as the most significant sites of the Mousterian or Middle Paleolithic period in the territory of Tajikistan. As you see in the slide, in the map of our country, of the Republic of Tajikistan, you see the southern part of Tajikistan as a Kulab, Moskovsky, Yavan, Gisar culture, Hisor culture, or the south, especially southern part of Tajikistan, and eastern part of Tajikistan as a Khorog, Murghab, and Ishkashim. Monuments of the Upper Paleolithic. Dear students, now we will stay in the third chapter of the Paleolithic period, which calls Monuments of the Upper Paleolithic period. It's basically about the Upper Paleolithic period, when approximately 35-40,000 years ago the formation of men of the contemporary type, it's a Homo sapiens, which we call them, can be said to have commenced. Homo sapiens, it's a Latin word for wise man, the species to which all modern human beings belong. And here it should be mentioned out that for the first time human started to use their mind, to use their thoughts on their work, on their tools, on their life. And especially you see in the stone tools of them, compare with the past period, if we see lots of development, lots of change here. If, for example, in the past period of the Stone Age, they used big and a little bit harder stones, in the Upper Paleolithic period they started to use really brilliant work, really comfortable work, stone tools of that time. Upper Paleolithic in Central Asia has not been studied in depth. Obviously, in comparison with the Muster period, natural conditions were not quite favorable for life of the Upper Paleolithic people in the old regions of Central Asia. During that time, the Great Ice Age started here in the territory of Central Asia. That's why from the territory of Tajikistan, the sites of that, we discovered only a few. The cultural layer has not been preserved here. Flint implements have been swept away by flood waters. But the relics discovered here are interesting, as they represent a very in full collection of flint implements, substantially different in form of processing technique from the implements found in habitat in Samarkand. It should be mentioned out that the Upper Paleolithic period, as we mentioned out here in the history, it's the time of the stone, it's the time of the Homo sapiens group, it's the time of the development, it's a time of the using of their brain. But unfortunately, because of the Ice Age, we discovered here less sites, and they are not still studied fully, and we hope that in the future they will provide new information about the site of the Upper Paleolithic period. And for now, in the territory of Tajikistan, especially in the south and eastern part of Tajikistan, we have discovered such nice sites, and with really important discoveries. It's Kharkush, Shogunov, and from there they discovered about 5,000 word pebbles, and which the age of them estimated about 40,000 years ago. And generally we can age the time of the Upper Paleolithic period about 35,000 years before. Dear students, now we will stay about the Mesolithic and Neolithic age. And about the Mesolithic monuments of Tajikistan, we can say that general duration of the Mesolithic and Neolithic period is 10 to 15,000 years, varying from places to place. Based on available archaeological data, and inference can be drawn that this period there was in Central Asia a sizable population was living in condition of a matriarchal tribe system. The implementation of production improved and became perfect. Implements for grinding, drilling and sewing, which were unknown earlier, found in wide use. New forms of economy appeared in the form of pottery production and primitive animal husbandry. So about the Megalithic monuments, we can say that this is the time of when after the Ice Age, human again came back to Central Asia and they started to really prepare their own civilization over the time here. Technical progress can be noted in a widely spread flint working microlithic tools. The use of flint in tool production allowed early people to make different kinds of arms and tools of different shapes and sizes. The main aspects of Megalithic period can be associated with the specific items, geometrical microlithic and various kinds of piers made of small discs. Specific characterization of the Megalithic site of Tajikistan shall be considered as the ongoing development of ancient flint weapons. So in the slide you see some stone tools of the time of the Megalithic period, which also the people of the Megalithic time of Tajikistan started to produce here. Evidences suggest that they became really technically progressed one, and the flint working microlithic tools were found in several numbers from the territory of Tajikistan. Archaeological data indicates that the Megalithic and the early Paleolithic period, which allowed it, along with the hunting profession, fishing profession, developed here, beside the food gathering. In their nature, the near Caspian region monuments are close to the contemporary culture of the near Asian region. The monuments discovered by Ranov in the territory of Pamir are quite different. In the exclusive condition of high mountains, at the altitude of 3.5 thousand meters to 9.5 thousand meters above the sea level, the highest human habitats have been discovered when people lived 9,000 years ago. By its very nature, it is another culture sharply different from the Western Megalithic. Here, crude implements of the types of the stone scoopers dominate. The Paleolithic technique is dominant here, and geometrical instruments are completely absent. Now also we can tell you about the discoveries from the Megalithic time of Tajikistan, of the Republic of Tajikistan, that the Megalithic period of Tajikistan, it goes back to the 11 to 6 millennia BC. From the territory of Tajikistan we have discovered such a huge amount of the settlements, which presented in the following slide. You see the mentioning the territory of south and east of Tajikistan, and especially from southern part of Tajikistan we have discovered Tutkavul, Obikik, Chilochor Chashma, Daraishur, Oktangi, Soysayot, Oshkhona, and the caves of Istik and Shakhta, which are regarded as the outstanding sites of the Megalithic period of Tajikistan. Neolithic monuments of Central Asia or Tajikistan, in the section of the Neolithic monuments, approximately we can say that 7 to 9,000 years ago, the epoch of the New Stone Age began. In Central Asia, three quite distinct cultures, different from one another in the archaeological materials and conditions of existence, have been discovered. In this period, historical changes in the life of human society are taking place. Humankind was moving from period of acquisition to the period of production. Hunting and food gathering are replaced by land cultivation and animal husbandry. This change is often called the Neolithic Revolution, because in the time of the Neolithic, the people, the human beings started to change. They started to accept the acquisition. They started to really start the production of their own food gathering, or animal husbandry, However, they call this term as relative. Considerable progress was in made tool making industry during the later stage of Neolithic period. The tools of the last stage were more sophisticated, more even than ones found in the first stage of Neolithic period. At this period, people used to make their tools out of the bones in the shape of piercers. They were also crafting in making their clothes and footwear out of the animal skin. Currently, more than 350 relics, including the sites of Ghazizon Mountain, Tutkavul, Soysayot, Kuhibalan, Kangartut, and Teguzak, were found in the Hisor site. Neolithic period 6 to 4 million BC. It should be mentioned out that the Neolithic period got the most popular culture here in the territory of Central Asia, which the historians are called also Hisor culture. And most of the several discoveries are represented in the museums of Tajikistan, and they are all belong to the period of the Neolithic period of the Stone Age. And dear students, now we will tell you about the earliest rock paintings, discoveries of the wall murals, discoveries of petroglyphs from the territory of Tajikistan. It should be mentioned out that in Tajikistan, numerous places can be identified along the Zarafshan River and its tributaries where rock paintings have been discovered. They have also been found in the Kuraman mountain range and at several other places. In the Pamir alone, about 50 such places have been identified. It should be mentioned out that the petroglyphs of the Pamir, they were researched by several historians and several archaeologists of the period of the Stone Age. The paintings found in the grotto of Shakhta, excavated by Ranov in the eastern Pamir in 1958, could be the most ancient in this period. Here on the wall of a small grotto at a height of 4.2 thousand meters above the sea level, in two colors have preserved. In these paintings, human figures behind birds, wild boars and bears are clearly visible. The flying arrows hit the animals. Judged by their style-related data, the paintings in the Shakhta grotto are older than the ones from Zarautsay and can be dated back to the Neolithic or Mesolithic period of the Stone Age. Dear students, here we presented you pictures of the petroglyphs of the Pamir, mountainous region of Badakhshan, and these are really, as you see, the human craft, the human artwork of the period of the Stone Age, really amazing. Here we finish our digital presentation about the Stone Age of the Republic of Tajikistan, history of the country, and in the next classes of our subject we will tell you more about the history of the Tajik people. Thank you for your attention.